Hey everyone. Okay, so right from the jump, the first thing I want to talk about with this chapter is how Harald and Rox met, because that one meeting, Clash of Blades, pretty much already set in stone how ideologically different they were, with one believing in the idea of peace above all else, while the other ever wanted destruction and anarchy, that in order for the world to achieve its own peace, you kind of have to make it yourself. And in Rox's case, it was like just destroy, just destroy everything. Just live your life as is without any of this like bureaucratic or monarchical bullshit kind of thing. If there's one thing this chapter established is how true the legends of Rox were, as no matter where he went, he always found an excuse to engage his desire for wanton destruction. Like it's almost like an instinct to him, and yet more than anything, I think it's because of the Willity more than any other like I think it's because of the Willity more than any other like Rox who have carried that initial. I feel like this chapter shows just how much Rox has like embraced the legacy of D, but the problem is that Rox is also an example of what happens when one fully gives themselves into that ambition, and in this case, led to their own self-destruction. Like in a way, Rox kind of just became his. A lot of ways, kind of became his own worst enemy. And on that note, though, I do like how this chapter also drew many parallels to things Rox did in the past that Teach is doing in the present, but maybe in some ways even better than his father, which like for example the whole thing with the pirate of full lead, like that was like we see that was always an ambition of his, but in some ways with full lead he was never able to I think I'm not going to say he didn't make it his own, but you can see he didn't have the know with wherewithal in order to, I guess, truly make it his, in order to truly achieve the idea of making this whole pirate armada. But with Teach, he's actually done what Rox couldn't. Um, and but in and that in itself does make me, and just again knowing that Teach and Rox are father and son, it is one of those things that does make me wonder. Um, does make me wonder because I think I remember one moment in the story where Teach said he didn't know who his father was. So like it's one of those things that begs the question: is everything Teach is doing now just shared instinct between father and son, or did he at some point learn about Rox's legacy and, whether knowing the familial connection or not, decided to continue what he started? Because regardless, there definitely is a certain dramatic poetry to the fact that Teach is walking down the same path as his father, and whether he'll meet this. And now the question is whether he'll meet the same fate. Because now I'm more certain than ever before, after just reading these past couple chapters, that much like all those decades ago, God Valley will reappear again to serve as the proving ground for basically the Throne Wars. Like God Valley will be that final marker along the way that's to determine who will become the next Pirate King. And yeah, aside from all that, though, the chapter also showed how many of the people who would come to be known as legends in their own right ended up joining Rox, which is that we would he would often engage in the time-honored tradition of the Daveback fight, which it's one of those things where it's nice that we're coming back around to that plot point. Although weirdly enough, it's one of those things that does make me question if we actually needed a whole ass arc dedicated to that one plot point just for this payoff. Like it's kind of one of those things where I'm glad we're bringing it back around to that, but also was it really like just this one line, just this one little passing line of saying the way that Rox formed his crew of the way Rox formed his crew among pirates he would win in Davyback fights. It's like that's really in some ways all you really needed, and just I don't know. It is, I guess it is still somewhat interesting world building, but again, the whole again, this even weird again, it weirdly makes the Davy Back fight arc even weirdly more pointless to me. I don't know why, it just does. But in either case, we get a full introduction to all the major players who we've heard about but didn't get a full introduction for until now, like Wang Ji, which, yeah, still waiting on to see that fight with Blackbeard, how that fight with Blackbeard went down, Oda, but fine, keep your secrets if you want. Then we finally get a name to the face of the Chinese warrior zombie on Thriller Bark, Ganzui, and a mobster known as Don Marlin, who I kind of forgot, but I think he was mentioned offhandedly by Beige in Whole Cake Island, I think, but he does feel like the most unimpressive of the group, if I'm being honest. Like, of all the pirates that that Rox courted to his crew, Don Marlin, yeah, he's just kind of there, if I'm being honest. Then, of course, there's the man himself, Shiki the Golden Lion, and his first ever, like, full appearance in the manga. And honestly, I think the shocking thing about this to me is that Oda held off this long to show Shiki's to show Shiki like in so many years after Strong World came out. Like, it's one of those things where credit where it's due. Man is committed to the idea of there's a time and place for everything when it comes to how he writes One Piece, and more than anything, and like the fact that he waited this long to even properly introduce Shiki to the spot, yeah, impressive. And when it comes to and and I guess more than anything, I like how the group dynamic shines through of seeing that, yeah, Rox's crew was kind of built on a very tenuous alliance of convenience. Like, everyone is only a part of the crew for their own ends, and when compared to his son, while kind of the same situation, it is clear that Blackbeard pirates do hold some manner of respect for Teach as their captain, at least at least in that sense of recognizing they're the members of the crew, and he's the captain. So it's like, yeah, it's interesting of the similarities in that situation, but also kind of the slight ever differences too. And yeah, one final thing I will say though is that for as chaotic and unhinged as Rox is, it is still fascinating to see how his words to Harald about authority in the world being finite and wanting to conquer everything is what gave Loki like a new lease on life. Like, that ultimately, for as much as Loki did love Harald, it wasn't kind of his father that gave him that reason to hope. Like, he basically, Harald, he gave him, in a way, I think, a reason to keep going, but not a reason in order to hope for a brighter future. Like, it was Rox who, ironically, kind of helped him see that brighter future, even though he wanted to destroy it. Now, on the flip side, like, it's also true that these very same, I think, words also likely fed even more into Loki's, like, belief of might makes right, that strength is everything, that even knowing, and but even knowing that, this is, I think, painting a much clearer picture of Loki's character, that although misguided, Loki's actions have always come from a genuine place of caring for the people of Elbaf. Even if he can be a bit much to handle, he was very much well-intentioned in everything he did, although that still doesn't explain his pranks necessarily, but you basically get the point. Loki's misguided, but he is caring. He does care about the people of Elbaf. And it's just that he doesn't, it's just the only way he does know is the might makes right mentality. But it'll be interesting to see how where he ends up after this ultimately. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much all I got for this review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe from the Blue Sky, Analyst Crunchyroll. Be sure to notification bell, hit the subscribe button, and just shove around, guys. Dark Knight of Night signing off. Later, everyone.